For as long as I can remember, people have said you have to learn foreign languages to be successful. That could prove to be a bad advice in the future. How that might be true and what it means for your profession and your business, stay tuned. Many major problems around the world could be solved better, faster, easier, with less risk if people understood each other better, and the world would be way more peaceful. Time Cattle Technologies have developed what they call a hearable that can perform real-time translations. You say something in your native language and the device translates it into one of 40 languages, simultaneously, that is, instantly and immediately. Your conversation partners do exactly the same and you hear their statement in your native language. The hearable needs just 0.5 seconds for the translation and has an accuracy of 95%. Time Cattle not only use their own translation engine, but also other leading systems such as DeepL and Google. The 7 most spoken languages in the world are stored offline, so that translation works without an internet connection. Soon, many more languages will work even offline. Time Cattle's system is not a crazy vision of the future. The system already works today, and you can buy it today. In the trend system, we are dealing with the trend intelligentization. There, the subtrend NLP, natural language processing by AI, and globalization is a factor as well. Have you noticed the incredible progress that translation machines have made in recent years? How superbly AI systems can translate text and even spoken language? The first computer translators were around in the 1980s, and thanks to neural networks, we made a big leap in performance now. Did you see how perfectly Google Duplex made an appointment for a haircut? With a human on the phone in 2018, without her noticing on the other end of the line that she spoke with an AI. Artificial intelligence is evolving exponentially. We're still at the low, flat point of the famous S-curve here. In a couple of years, translation engines won't be just 20 or 30% better, they'll be better many times, by several 100%. Hardly anyone can imagine how perfect translations and even simultaneous interpreting will be 10 years from now. How fast will the change happen? The performance of such technologies is increasing way faster than most people can imagine today. The spread of such hearables as time kettles will also develop exponentially depending on prices and how quickly people change their habits. My future assumption, by 2030, automated interpreting will be very widespread and will still be growing strongly. What is good about that? What are the advantages? Language barriers still hinder international cooperation in companies, authorities, and organizations, and also in politics. The better we understand each other, the faster and easier we can solve the big problems of humankind. The world will be a better and more peaceful place. Millions of people, especially school children, torture themselves through conventional foreign language classes. However, too many of them never speak the foreign language well enough then. Many companies remain below their potential because language barriers hinder their internationalization and globalization, and new markets are created for countless specialized machine translators. Yes, there's also a downside. People and companies that make a living teaching, translating, interpreting languages will see their market shrink dramatically. It will get smaller, software will do more and more of the work, but of course the market will not disappear entirely. Will cultural diversity be lost? I've long recommended that for professional reasons you should learn only English if it is not your first language, and that as perfectly as possible. In the long run, you will simply gain too little benefit from learning other foreign languages and investing your lifetime to do so. This is because the translation systems today are already better than most foreign language learners can ever become, even if they have invested many hours, many days, and many years into learning, often with great effort. The translation systems will beat you hands down, soon in all common languages and at minimal cost. Footnote: if you are a native speaker of English, I nevertheless recommend you become familiar with one other language that you have fun learning. But for the rest of us, why still English? Because it is the current and future lingua franca, the language that more and more people will speak as a second language. And because you may not always be able or want to have such a universal translator in your ear, or because every now and then the battery simply runs out. So, learn perfect English if it is not your first language, but no more learning of other foreign languages, okay? Boy, do I get protesting comments when I say this. One of them is, oh no, the languages will disappear. There are already only 6,500 languages in the world. Many are already dead and gone, and the cultural heritage will irretrievably be lost. It is always fascinating to experience how people try to justify their emotional adherence to the familiar with supposedly logical arguments. Who protests here has unfortunately not thought it through logically. My recommendation is not learn only English and forget your mother tongue. Languages are preserved because the number of native speakers is preserved. The foreign language learners play a less important role here, so this protest is going nowhere. The second typical protest argument is that every foreign language one speaks gives you an additional perspective on the world. Then I read something like, well, my daughter studied in China and I don't think that did her any harm. Yeah, absolutely. I can only subscribe to that. Let's quote Goethe. How many languages you speak, so often you are a human. Or in other words, you have as many lives as languages you speak. I've experienced this myself. I was born in Belgrade, formerly Yugoslavia, now Serbia. Consequently, I speak what used to be called Serbo-Croatian. That is my mother tongue. Generously speaking, I speak and understand Serbian, Croatian, Bosnian, and Montenegrin. Not because I'm so brilliant, but because it's essentially one language, sort of like British and American English. Oh, please, my Balkan friends, stay calm now. If you're honest, you all understand each other excellently, at least linguistically. For me, at any rate, I have decided that for me, all these countries where a variant of this language is spoken count as my birthplace. And yes, through this language, I experience the world differently than without. When someone says AirPod, I have the association of floor with pod, so a kind of air floor. It's a pretty funny idea. I'm sure Salvador Dali would have painted a surrealistic picture of that. When I hear glass, I not only see the pane or the drinking glass, but I also feel the connotation of voice, because that's what it's called in South Slavic, tvoj glas, your voice. So to clarify my recommendation, I said for professional reasons. No one should torture themselves in the future to learn French or Mandarin for professional reasons. It's just too much of a waste of your lifetime. Because you can never become as good as the translation and interpreting machines will be. And if you do, it will only be that one language. But if the sound of French arouses you, if you enjoy the melody of Italian, if Mandarin creates an emotion of exoticism for you, if you feel that Swahili expands your perception of the world, then go for it. Enjoy learning, reading, listening, and speaking these languages. As a hobby or as a linguistic discipline, any language is meaningful and beautiful. Now what? What are your opportunities? What does this have to do with the future of your profession and your business? Where do you have touch points with spoken or written foreign languages in your business model? Or where might you have them? Where can you use automated translators and interpreters? You can do this for text, for images, for video, for audio. In the future, you can internationalize and globalize virtually effortlessly at minimal cost. Where do you invest money and effort for, in the future and professionally, useless training in foreign languages other than English? For yourself, for your employees, for your descendants, I would reconsider that. If you even make a living from teaching languages, from translating and interpreting, it is really high time that you develop a future-proof business model, either by focusing on specialized areas or by developing in a direction where translation machines will always remain permanently inferior to humans, such as in direct emotional and empathic communication with other people. By the way, if you want to make your company future robust for yourself or for your successors, if you want to think thoroughly and profoundly about the future of your business, we can do that together. Take a look at our website and the project examples there. There is also a free video crash course with me on the future of my business, which is your business. Have a bright future.